PUC2 ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಬನ್ನಿ. ಇಂದಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸಗಳನ್ನು ಏಕಾಗ್ರ ಚಿತ್ತದಿಂದ ಶಾಂತ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿ ಮುಗಿಸುವ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡಲು, ಕಲಿತ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕದಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟುಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡಲು, ಜ್ಞಾಪಕದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬರೆಯುವ ಬುದ್ಧಿಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡಲು ಇಷ್ಟ ದೇವತೆಗೆ, ಗುರು ಹಿರಿಯರಿಗೆ, ಕುಲದೇವರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿ. Take deep breaths. Yes, good morning, my dear students. In the last period, we started learning inverse trigonometric functions. Chapter number 2, inverse trigonometric functions. Trigonometric functions. Inverse trigonometric functions. So in that we defined, strictly speaking, said that inverse trigonometric function does not exist. Therefore, you have to restrict the domain and the range, right? In that we studied the inverse trigonometric function, defined sine inverse will have the domain and range. Domain and range means domain will be the value which lies between the closed interval -1 to +1, means it cannot exceed, including -1. This is called as closed interval -1 to +1, means in the number line, inverse sine function lies, can take the value from -1 to +1. The range of it will be open interval -π/2 to +π/2, because sine 90 is 1, sine -90 is -1. It cannot go away from it. That is the domain and range of the sine inverse function. Similarly, cos inverse function can also have the values -1 to +1, closed interval -1 to +1, because its range will be 0 to π, because cos 0 is +1, cos pi is -1. Therefore, on the number line, it can have values from -1 to +1. If you take a tan inverse can have any value, open interval -infinity to +infinity, or even you can say any real number, because it can take any value throughout the number line -infinity to +infinity, because tan π/2 it is closed, but it is open, but infinity cannot have the value -π/2 to +π/2, because tan 90 is equal to +infinity, tan -90 is -infinity, the values. Similarly, we can define cosec inverse function, right? Cosec inverse function, the thing is, cosec inverse, if you take the value of the cosec inverse, you can show in the graph also. This particular, the principal value means the branch where the values are allowed will be, this is 0, this is pi by 2, this is minus pi, this is pi, this is minus pi by 2. Means sin inverse can have values between what? Values between minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. This is sin inverse. Similarly, cos inverse can have the values. If you show in the graph, it can have values from 0, this is pi by 2, this is minus pi by 2, sorry, this is pi, and this is minus pi by 2. It can have values from 0 to pi, anywhere between 0 to pi. Graphically, you can remember this will be in the first quadrant and second quadrant, but the sin inverse have the principal value in first quadrant and fourth quadrant, and tan inverse again, this is cos inverse. Cos inverse can have the value, tan inverse can have the value minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Okay, so this is the restriction area. If it to become 1, 1 and on 2, these are the restrictions: third quadrant, fourth quadrant, fourth quadrant. If the cos inverse comes in third quadrant and fourth quadrant, it will be no more 1, 1 and on 2. Now we will try to define inverse cosec function. See the restriction for the inverse, to define inverse cosec inverse function. See, inverse means sine can have the value on the number line minus 1 to, the domain of it will be minus 1 to plus 1, right? But in this area, cosec inverse does not come. If I take this one as a quadrant, observe, these are number lines actually. Cosec inverse, if you take the value of the y is equal to cosec inverse x, then x becomes what? Cosec y. What are the possible values of the y? So that it will be 1, 1 and on 2. If I take cosec 0, what is the value of cosec 0? Cosec 0 is sin reciprocal of 1 by 0 is infinity, right? It cannot have the value 0. But if I take a cosec minus pi by 2, it will take the value minus 1. Cosec plus pi by 2, it can have the value plus 1. Means the domain of the cosec inverse will lie between closed interval minus 1 to plus 1. But it should not be equal to 0. Let me subtract 0 from it, because cosec 0 becomes infinity. Therefore, cosec inverse does not have the value minus 0. Then again it is its domain will be, its range will be minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. It can exist in the interval minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Then we will take sec inverse. Where the sec inverse lies. Suppose that I take y is equal to sec inverse x. What are the possible values? The domain will be minus 1 to plus 1 except 0, because cosec 0 becomes infinity. We will take sec 0. Y is equal to sec inverse x, then I can write x is equal to sec y. Take some values. right? What is sec 0 is equal to? Sec 0 is equal to 1. What is sec pi is equal to? Sec pi is equal to 1 upon cos pi. What is cos pi is minus 1, therefore you get minus 1 only. And if I take this pi by 2, what is sec pi by 2 is equal to 1 upon cos pi by 2. What is cos pi by 2 is 0, therefore it becomes infinity. Means at pi by 2 it is not defined, therefore its principal branch will lie between 0 to pi, 0 to pi, provided pi by 2. Therefore, sec inverse can have the values even sec 90 degree, right? Sec 90 degree, except 90 degree, it can have the value between minus 1 to plus 1, minus 1 to plus 1, sec inverse, cosec inverse, wait, cosec inverse can have values, just a minute. Cosec inverse, if I take number line, it cannot have values between minus 1 to plus 1. It can have values from minus infinity to minus 1, 1 to infinity. Therefore, its domain will be minus infinity to minus 1 it can have. This is closed. Union of 1 to plus infinity, and this is open interval. Means greater than this up to infinity, greater than this minus 1 up to infinity, minus infinity it can take a value. Suppose this is 0. And from 1 to infinity it can have any value. Therefore, its domain becomes minus infinity open interval, minus 1 is closed interval, union 1 to infinity, and minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, except the value 0. If it takes a cosec 0, it will be minus 1. Observe, it can have value minus 1 to plus 1 except 0. Similarly, sec inverse can have value from principal domain and range, where you can define sec inverse. Again, sec inverse cannot have the value between minus 1 to plus 1, beyond 1, beyond this. Therefore, you can say it can have the value open interval minus infinity to minus 1 closed, because sec pi can have the value minus 1, union from plus 1 to infinity. Means the cosec values that does not enter into the where sine inverse and cos inverse are present. Beyond it, right? And its principal value lie between open interval, closed interval 0 to pi, except what? Here, except 0, here, except pi by 2. 0 to pi, because sec pi by 2 becomes infinity, means it becomes undefined. Therefore, the range of it will be from 0 to pi. Similarly, cot inverse will try to define. If I take cot inverse x, y is equal to cot inverse x, then x is equal to cot y. What are the values we will observe? If you take cot 0, what is the value of cot 0? Cot 0, 1 upon tan 0. Tan 0 is infinity, therefore it becomes infinity. It is not defined in 0. And if you take cot pi by 2, cot 90, 1 upon tan 90, tan pi by 2. Tan pi by 2 is infinity. 1 upon infinity becomes what? 0. Right? Then if you take cot pi, what is cot pi is cot 180 minus 0 or plus 0. If you take in the second quadrant, it becomes what? Cot 0. What is the value of cot 0? Cot 0, 180 minus theta. Then what is the principal value? Principal value for the cot inverse is, it can take any value, real number, any real number value it can take, and its domain will be any real number. Its range will be what? Its range will be what? If you take minus cot pi by 2, cot minus pi by 2. What is cot minus pi by 2? What is the range of it? The range of it will be from sec inverse, the cot inverse. It will lie between 0 to pi, open interval, because cot 0 is plus infinity. Cot 0 is plus infinity. What is cot pi is? Cot pi means 180 degree minus 0. Even multiple cot remains cot only. Cot will be negative here. We'll get cot 0. We'll get minus infinity. It can have the value from minus infinity to plus infinity. Any real number. And what is in which quadrant it comes? It comes in the first and the second quadrant. Therefore 0 to pi. So these are the domain and range of the inverse sine function, inverse cosine function, inverse tangent function, cosec inverse function, sec inverse function, and cot inverse function. Okay. So this particular range is called as principal value of it. Whenever the value of the range, if the any inverse trigonometric function lies in the value of its range, then it is called as principal value of that particular function. Right? Let us solve few examples on it. Principal value. What is the meaning of principal value? Principal value. The value of an inverse trigonometric function in the restricted zone of its range is called as principal value. Principal value of ITF means what are the restricted area, that is if you go beyond the range is minus pi by 2 plus pi by 2. If sine inverse value has the value, then it will be principal value. Right? So based on this, we will try to solve some basic questions today. Start now. Then we will define or derive next set of problems. Try this one. Find the principal value of first type of questions, type 1 questions based on principal value of first one, tan inverse minus root 3. Then we take cos inverse cos inverse minus root 3 by 2. Third one, sin inverse minus 1 by 2. Fourth one, sin inverse tan inverse 1 by root 3. 1 by root 3. You can directly guess the principal value, right? What is the value of tan inverse? Just you can check it. Observe, tan inverse minus root 3. For what angle of the tan you get root 3? For what value of the tan you get root 3 is tan 60, and therefore you can take it as minus root 3 means what? It comes in which quadrant? Minus root 3 can be written as minus pi by 3, because this is the allowed value for tan inverse. There's a tan inverse can lie between minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Therefore you can have the value as minus pi by 3. Directly you can write it. Cos inverse minus root 3 by 2. So that cos is defined in which quadrant? Cos is defined, the principal value range will be from 0 to pi. To get cos negative, what you have to take? Root 3 by 2. The angle corresponding root 3 by 2 is cos 30. Right? So therefore you can take it as pi minus 30 degrees pi by 6. Then only it becomes negative, because in the first quadrant all are positive. For cos to be negative, it should be in which quadrant? It should be in the second quadrant. Therefore principal value can be obtained by taking pi minus pi by 6. Calculate the value. Just you can do the guesswork, because cos inverse exists in a 0 to pi. To make this, that root 3 by 2, cos root 3 by 2 is, cos 30 is root 3 by 2. 30 can be written as pi by 6. If I take cos pi by 6 value, then it would have been in the first quadrant. Therefore, to bring it to the second quadrant, you have to write it as pi minus pi by 6. Therefore, principal value will be 1 6 6 pi minus pi becomes 5 pi by 6. You can easily guess the principal value by knowing the standard angles. Now, let us observe. Sin inverse minus 1 by 2. For what angle of the sine you get minus 1 by 2? So, the restricted area for this is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 for sin inverse. Right? To get the sine negative, it should be what? 1 by 2. For what angle of the sine you get 1 by 2? Sine 30 degree. 30 degree means pi by 6. Therefore, you can take it as minus pi by 6 means minus 30 degree lies in the fourth quadrant. Therefore, this is the principal value. Tan inverse 1 by root 3. So, tan has got again the limit from minus pi by 2 to open interval, minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. So, the 1 by root 3, that is tan 30 is equal to 1 by root 3. You can easily take it as pi by 6. This is called as principal value, finding principal value given the inverse trigonometric function. Means you must know it's a restricted area. Within that area, which angle satisfies it? Now see here, tan inverse minus pi by 3, tan inverse minus root 3, right? You can even, if you are not getting it, you can even do like this. Let a tan inverse root 3 is equal to minus root 3 is equal to x. Then you get what? Tan x is equal to minus root 3. For what angle of the tan we get minus root 3 in the restricted area? In the restricted area, tan inverse is that is for tan minus pi by 3 you can get the value. Therefore, x is equal to minus pi by 3. Right? That is x is equal to minus pi by 3. Therefore, you can take tan inverse minus root 3 is equal to minus pi by 3. Those who could not understand it directly, you can use like this. First one. Second one. Let us assume that let cos inverse minus root 3 by 2 is equal to, we'll call it as x. Then you get what? Provided x lies between, what is the value of x? Domain value. That is, you get what? Cos x is equal to minus root 3 by 2. To define inverse cos function, what is the limit? So limit should be between what? Between 0 to pi. 0 to pi, you can define cos inverse. Then which one will satisfy? Cos pi minus 180 minus root 3 by 2. For what angle of the cos you get root 3 by 2? Cos 30 or 60? Cos 30. Cos 30 means pi by 6. You can write as cos, LCM is 6, 1 6 5 pi by 6. Therefore, cos x is equal to cos 5 pi by 6. X becomes equal to what? 5 pi by 6. What is x we have taken? Therefore, cos inverse minus root 3 by 2 is equal to 5 pi by 6. Like this also you can define. Directly also you can get. Those who can answer directly, you can directly answer. But if it is appears in the theory, for 1 mark. Third one. We have to find out. Let sin inverse minus 1 by 2 is equal to x. By definition, provided it lies between the restriction minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, and the value will be minus 1 to plus 1. Sin inverse. That implies sin x is equal to 1 by 2. In this restriction, for what angle of the sine you get 1 by 2? 1 by 2 is 30 degree. Therefore, you can take it as pi by 6. Pi by 6 means 30 degree comes in minus 90 and plus 90. Therefore, x becomes equal to what? Pi by 6. Then what is x we assumed? We assumed that it is sin inverse minus 1 by 2 is equal to pi by 2. Hence, the principal value of it will be pi by 2. Similarly, you can solve the fourth one. You are given with the tan inverse 1 by root 3. Let us assume that tan inverse 1 by root 3 is equal to x if the domain is minus any real number and the range will be minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. You have to find out a value between minus 90 to plus 90. Then you can define tan x is equal to 1 by root 3. For what angle of the tan between minus 90 to plus 90, 1 by root 3 satisfies? It is tan 30 degree, which can be written as pi by 6. Therefore, x is equal to pi by 6. What you assumed? Tan inverse 1 by root 3 is equal to x. You can write as tan inverse 1 by root 3 is equal to pi by 6. This is called as finding principal value of it. We take a few more. Fifth one. Sec inverse minus root 2. Prove that. Find the value of principal value of sec inverse minus root 2. Sixth one is cot inverse minus root 3. cot inverse minus root 3. Then you have 7th one, sec inverse 2, sec inverse 2. Then you have 8th one, sec inverse 2 and cosec inverse 2 by root 3. Cosec inverse 2 by root 3. Right? Try to find the principal value. Principal value. Hi, morning. Hello, good morning. Now you try to find out the principal value of them. How to get the principal value? First of all, you must have in your mind what is the range of it, right? In which particular region the range comes. Based on that, you have to find out the range of it, principal value branch, sec inverse. Let us assume that let sec inverse root 2 is equal to x. For sec inverse, what is the limit? What is the value? Sec inverse can exist. What is the range of sec inverse? Sec inverse can have the value from 0 to pi except pi by 2 because sec 90 becomes infinity. Then you can take this implies sec inverse root 2 is equal to x. You will get sec x is equal to root 2. Can you get a value for which, for what value of the sec you get root 2? For the value, for what value of the x you get root 2? Is a pi by 4. Sec 45 degrees pi by 4. Do you think pi by 4 comes between 0 to 180 degree? Pi by 4 means 45 degree. Sec 45 degree. Sec 45 degree is root 2. Means it lies between 0 to 180. Therefore, you can write as sec pi by 4. That implies when sec x is equal to sec pi by 4, x becomes equal to pi by 4. You assume that sec inverse root 2 is equal to x. That implies put the value of x here. You will get a sec inverse root 2 is equal to pi by 4. This is how you can find out the principal value. Is a type 1 problems on the concept of principal value. Take 6th problem. Cot inverse minus root 3. Cot inverse minus root 3. Let us assume that cot inverse minus root 3 is equal to x. And it is defined only if cot x is equal to minus root 3. It is defined only if the value of cos lies between, cot lies between 0 to pi. Is there any restriction? Is there any restriction for cos pi? Principal value 0 to pi should not be closed. It should be open because cot 0 becomes infinity. Cot pi becomes negative infinity to positive infinity. Now you check 0 to pi. 0 to pi means 0 to 180 degree. Can you guess any angle for which you get root 3? Cot 30. Cot 30 degree. Clear? 0 to pi. Cot 30 degree. Cot 30 degree becomes what? Root 3. But we want minus root 3. Therefore, can I write the angle as, I must take it in the second quadrant, because to become, if you take only the value of x, cot as pi by 6, 30 degree, you will not get it, but it will be negative in the second quadrant. Therefore, can I write it as 180 minus 30 degree? What is cot 180 minus 30 degree? Minus cot 30 degree. Then you can get the value, or even you can write as cot pi minus pi by 6, you have to take the value. Or even you can simplify this one as cot pi minus pi by 6, 180 minus 30 becomes minus cot 30. Cot 30 becomes tan 60, then you will get root 3. Therefore, LCM will be 6. 1 6 6 pi minus 5 becomes plus 5 pi by 6. Therefore, the value of x will be equal to 5 pi by 6. Therefore, you can write the value of cot inverse minus root 3 is x. Put the value of x. Cot inverse minus root 3 is equal to 5 pi by 6. I hope you are understanding how to find out the. Similarly, sec inverse 2. Sec inverse 2. Let us assume that eighth one, sec inverse 2. Let us assume that let sec inverse 2 be equal to x. What is the principal value branch for sec inverse? Sec inverse is 0 to pi except 90, because sec 90 becomes infinity. That implies only in this restriction it is 1 1 and on 2. Therefore, you can take it as sec x is equal to 2. Now tell me, for what value of the sec you get 2 plus 2? You will get it for 30 degree. Therefore, you can take it as sec 30 degree. 60 degree. Sec 60 degree is equal to root 2, because reciprocal cos 60 is 1 by 2, sec 60 is 2. Therefore, you can write it in a radian measure as sec 60 degree can be written as pi by 3. Therefore, sec x is equal to sec pi by 3 means x is equal to pi by 3. X can be written as sec inverse 2 is equal to pi by 3. This is called as method of finding principal value based on the principal value branch. If it is within the branch, then you can accept that particular value. The eighth one, it was seventh one, eighth one. Try this. Let cosec inverse 2 by root 3, cosec inverse 2 by root 3 is equal to x, provided what is the branch? Principal value branch lies between minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 except 0, because cosec 0 becomes infinite. Now, if this condition is satisfied, then you can take cosec x. Cosec x is equal to what? 2 by root 3. For what angle of the cosec you get 2 by root 3? You know that sine 60 is root 3 by 2. Therefore, cosec root 3 by 2 will be equal to 60 degree. That is cosec pi by 3. So that implies x becomes equal to what? Pi by 3, 60 degree. Cosec 60. Then x becomes what? Cosec inverse 2 by root 3 is equal to pi by 3. Suppose that the question appears for 1 mark. To find the principal value, you must correctly know what is the range or what is the restriction. If your angle is within the restriction, then you can take the value. Okay, fine. Good morning, all of you. Those who joined the live stream. Okay, let us move on to some inverse trigonometric identities one by one. One by one. Take the first identity in it. Properties of ITFs. One by one we will take the properties. Properties of inverse trigonometric function will start. Properties of ITF, or even you can take them as identities of ITF. First set of results is a sine inverse of set 1. We'll start again. In that, sine inverse of sine theta is equal to theta. For all, this symbol stands for all theta belongs to You know the restriction, minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Second one, cos inverse of cos theta is equal to theta for all theta belongs to the restriction cos is 0 to pi, right? Similarly, tan inverse of tan theta is equal to theta provided theta lies between, what is the restriction for tan is minus open interval minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. What is the difference between open interval and closed interval? Means closed means including 0 and pi, and in this open bracket means excluding, because tan minus pi by 2 becomes minus infinity, does not exist. Therefore, next, fourth one, cot inverse of cot theta is equal to theta for all theta belongs to open interval 0 to pi, except what? 0 to pi open interval. Okay, 0 and pi are not included because cot 0 is infinity, cot pi is minus infinity. Take fifth one, sec inverse of sec theta. Sec inverse of sec theta is equal to theta for all. What is the restriction for theta? Sec inverse exists between, yes, 0 to pi, except what? Pi by 2, because sec 90 becomes infinity. Then cosec inverse of cosec theta becomes theta for all theta belongs to what? What is the restriction for theta? Including minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, because cosec 90 is 1, including. Therefore, this is called as open interval. For sec inverse, closed interval minus cosec 0 becomes infinity. So this is the restricted area. If these conditions of theta are satisfied, then you can prove this. Let us I will show you the proof of one or two of them. Let us assume that first one will prove. I will show one, you can try all others. Sin inverse of sin theta is equal to x. Call it as equation number 1. By definition of ITF, provided theta belongs to the interval minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Sin inverse of sin theta is equal to theta becomes what? You will get what? Sin x is equal to what? Sin theta. By definition of inverse trigonometric function, by definition, sin x becomes equal to sin theta. That implies what? That implies x is equal to theta. Call it as equation number 2. From 1 and 2, right? You can say that sin inverse of sin theta is equal to theta. Hence proved. If you are asked to prove this, hence proved. Are you getting me? Similarly, you can prove all the 6 of them. Remember, provided these branches of the principal value, so in which value of the principal value branch it lies, that you have to see. Try to prove others. Prove the second one. We'll see 2, 3. Take 1 or 2 minutes. Try to prove the way I solved it. Second one, cos inverse of cos theta. Try. Second and third. In the similar way, I solved here. Take second one. Second one can be proved. Second one. Let, you have to start like this. Cos inverse of cos theta is equal to x. What is the restriction for cos theta? 0 to, provided theta belongs to 0 to pi, open interval. If its condition is satisfied, by definition, we can write it as, call it as equation number 1. Then you can write it as cos x is equal to cos theta. Call it as equation number 2. From 1 and 2, you can say that x is equal to theta. Call it as equation number 2. Observe, put the value of x is equal to theta here. You can prove it like this. From 1 and 2, you get cos inverse of cos theta is equal to what? Theta. Hence the proof of it. This is second type of the problems, right? Based on this, we will try to prove few questions. I think all of you noted this one. Fine, my dear students. Hello. Good morning, all of you. Good morning. I'm fine. Yes, this is the first set. Based on the first set, we'll solve few problems. Then we'll move on to the second set of properties. First set of properties. Based on this, I'll give you a few questions here and we'll try to solve them. Now take the examples on it, set of examples on it. You can take now. Evaluate. Take the example. Evaluate. First one. Sine inverse of sine pi by 3. Second one. Cos inverse of cos 2 pi by 3. Third one. Tan inverse of tan pi by 4. Try them, they are very easy, 1 mark questions. Fourth one. Sine inverse of sine 2 pi by 3. Try. Fifth one. Cos inverse of cos 7 pi by 6. Sixth one. Here you are using allied angles. Tan inverse of tan 3 pi by 4. You take one by one. Go on finding the values of them. Observe. If they are not in the limit, you have to bring them in the limit. Take the first one. Sine inverse of sine pi by 3. See, what is the restriction for sine? Theta should lie between. Now, let me take sine inverse of sine pi by 3. The value is, if the principal value is, if you take it as theta. So, these values should lie between what? Theta should lie between what? Should belong to minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Means minus 90 to plus 90. What is sine pi by 3? Observe here. Sine inverse of sine pi by 3 means sine 60 degree. Sine 60 degree lies between minus pi to plus pi by 2. Therefore, you can directly write the value as pi by 3. Without anything. Exists. Take the second one. Cos inverse of cos 2 pi by 3. If you don't understand, convert it into degree. What is cos 2 pi by 3? Pi by 3 means 60. 62 is 120 degree. Right? Theta should lie between 0 to 180 degree. Pi means what? 0 to 180 degree. That is theta belongs to 0 to pi. Do you think 120 degree lies in the branch of the range? Yes, 120 lies. So therefore you can directly write it as 120 degree, or even you can write it as 2 pi by 3. Radian measure. Those are not understanding radian measure, convert them into degree and try to understand. Third one. Tan inverse of tan pi by 4. Tan inverse of tan pi by 4. You must have in your mind the restriction. Pi by 4 means 45 degree. Tan inverse of tan pi by 4 means 45 degree. What is the restriction for a domain? Theta should belong to minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Open interval, open interval, not closed. Theta belongs to minus 90 degree to plus 90 degree. Do you think 45 degree lies between minus 90 plus 90? Yes. Then you can directly write tan inverse of tan theta is equal to theta. That is the answer is pi by 4 only. Directly you can write the answer as pi by 4. Okay. And be careful about the restriction. Next, fourth one. Sine inverse of, very interesting. Don't make any hurry things. Sine 2 pi by 3. Now, first of all, we will take the restriction of theta belongs to open interval minus 90 to plus 90. Minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. 2 pi by 3 means sine inverse of sine pi by 3. Pi by 3 means what? 60 degree. 2 times 60 degree becomes 120 degree. Our restriction to define this one is minus 90 degree to plus 90 degree. Those are not understanding radian measure. 120 degree does not lies in it. You cannot write sine inverse of sine 120 degree as 120 degree. Wrong. You have to bring it in the range. For that I will use the allied angle. How to use the allied angle? You can write this one as 120 degree as sine of 180 degree minus 60 degree. What is sine 180 minus 60? What is sine 180 minus theta? You can write 120 as sine 180 minus 60 is 120. What is sine 180 minus theta? Second quadrant. In the second quadrant, apply ESTC rule. In the second quadrant, sine is positive. Therefore, you can take it as sine of sine only, one multiple of 180 degree, sine 60 degree. Is 60 degree lies between this? Yes. Now you can write it as sine inverse of sine 60 degree can be written as pi by 3. Now it is in the range. Therefore, answer will be pi by 3. I hope you understood. So, sine inverse of sine 2 pi by 3, if you write the answer 2 pi by 3, answer would have been wrong. Why? The sine inverse exists only if the angle lies between minus 90 to plus 90. Now, it is 120. Now, the problem starts. Now, how to bring it back to the first and fourth quadrant? For that, I am using allied angle. I know that 120 can be written as 180 minus 60. 180 minus 60 is 120 degree. By allied angle, you know that sine 180 minus theta is sine theta, because second quadrant sine will be positive. And even multiple of 90 degree, 2 into 90 degree, even multiple of 90 degree is there, sine remains sine only. You can write as sine 60. Sine 60 is pi by 3. Therefore, answer is pi by 3. Observe carefully. Restriction you have to observe and solve. Next, cos inverse of cos 7 pi by 6. Cos inverse of cos 7 pi by 6. Now, what is 7 pi by 6? What is the restriction? Theta should belong to what? Theta should belong to 0 to pi. 0 to pi means 0 to 180 degree. Now, tell me what is 7 pi by 6. Pi by 6 is 30 degree. 730 degree becomes 210 degree. Do you agree with me? 210 means greater than 180. Then you have to bring it back to what? Bring it back to yes. Bring it back to the 180 degree. How can you write it? You can write this one as cos 180. If you write it as plus 30 degree, what do you get? What do you get? Cos 180 plus 30 degree if you write. What is cos 180 plus theta? Where in which quadrant it falls? Allied angles. Therefore, I told you allied angle in the beginning only. Without allied angle, you cannot solve it. 180 plus theta. It is ASTC rule. Except tan and cot, rest of them are negative. Therefore, you can write it as cos inverse. Fourth quadrant, third quadrant, even multiple becomes minus cos 30 degree. Do you agree with me? 2 times 90 degree plus theta, allied angle, minus cos 30 degree. Minus cos 30 degree, I should write in the our standard form is cos inverse cos theta. Minus cos 30 degree means, let me rub this part and continue the explanation here. See, to make this minus cos 30 degree, can I work it like this? Observe. Cos inverse of, can I write cos 180 minus 30 degree. What is cos 180 minus theta? 180 minus theta, observe here, cos 180 minus theta, ASTC rule, cos is negative. Even multiple of 90 degree means cos minus 30 degree can be written as cos 180 minus 30 degree. There you get cos inverse of cos 180 minus 30 degrees is 150 degree. Right? Therefore, you can write it as cos, in radian measure, how do you write 150 degree? 150 degree in radian measure. Pi into 150 degree, pi x upon 180. 0 cancels. Right? 3 5s are 3 6 are 5 pi by 6. Cos 5 pi by 6. Is the cos 150 lies in the limit of 0 to pi? Yes, it is present in 0 to 180. Therefore, you can write it as 5 pi by 6. This is how you can find out the principal value very easily. Clear? Hello? Are you getting me? See, here you get cos 210 degree. To express cos 210 degree, you can write as 180 plus 30 degree. 180 plus 30 degree falls in the third quadrant. Therefore, I got minus cos 30 degree. Till the problem is not solved. To get minus cos 30 degree, you have to bring it back to its zone. The zone is 0 to pi. For cos inverse, the zone is 0 to 180 degree. To bring it to the second quadrant, I am writing minus cos 30 degree as cos 180 minus 30 degree. You will get cos 150 degree. 150 degree can be written as 5 pi by 6 or radian measure. If you don't know, convert it pi x upon 180. And after good practice, you will memorize them. And we will solve the last problem today. Okay. I hope you noted it. Take the last problem in it. The last problem is tan inverse of tan 3 pi by 4. Tan inverse of tan 3 pi by 4. What is the restriction for tan inverse? Provided theta lies between tan open interval minus 90 degree to plus 90 degree. If you are familiar with 90 degree. What is 3 pi by 4 is equal to? Tan inverse of tan pi by 4. Pi by 4 is 45 degree, means 135 degree. You will get 135. Tan inverse of tan 135 degree. 3 pi by 4. Pi by 4 means 45. 45 3 is 135 degree. Is it within the range of minus 90 to plus 90? No. Then you have to bring it back to this. You will get here tan inverse. Tan, you can write it as 180 minus 45 degree. 180 minus theta, ASTC rule, allied angle comes in what? Second quadrant. Second quadrant, ASTC rule, tan will be what? Negative. Try to understand. Tan inverse of you will get minus tan 45 degree. Why? Because tan is negative, then even multiple of 90 degree. If even multiple of 90 degree is rare, tan will remain tan only. I discussed in the beginning only allied angle. Now I can write it as tan inverse of minus tan theta can be written as tan minus theta, tan minus 45 degree in the fourth quadrant. Minus tan 45 is tan minus 45 degree. Then you can write it as tan inverse of tan minus pi by 4. Do you think minus 45 degree lies it? Yes, sir. Minus 92 plus 90 you can take. Therefore, minus 45 falls in the fourth quadrant. Then it is principal value minus pi by 4. Observe the interesting thing how the allied angles are used. Okay. So in the next period, this week, I will be out of station on Saturday. Generally, Saturday there will be maths period. This week, Saturday, Sunday, there will be no classes. Tomorrow, we'll meet to learn chemistry. Right? We'll start the chapter solutions. First chapter will start in chemistry tomorrow. And directly after the class, we'll meet weekends. I will be out of station. Directly, we'll meet on Monday. Till then, bye-bye. See you.